Good evening, dear colleagues. I'm glad to be here. Thanks a lot for the opportunity to participate to this exciting symposium. I'm Dr. Catalano. I'm a nephrologist in dialysis unit of CHU Brugman, Brussels, and I will present you our work about outcome after arteriovenous fistula creation, a single center experience from Belgium. Key doki guidelines as well as ERBP guidelines recommend arteriovenous fistula as the access of choice in hemodialysis patients. A well functioning access represents an Achilles heel because of increasing age and comorbidity of patients that lead to more heavy access complications. At least 20% of arteriovenous fistula are never used for hemodialysis, and 25% of them that do function will fail after 2 years. For this reason, it is important to promote a multidisciplinary vascular access work to improve outcomes. The aim of our study was to investigate functional primary and secondary patency of arteriovenous fistula, arteriovenous access, created at CHU Brugman, Brussels, Belgium, between the 1st of January 2009 and the 31st of December 2012. We retrospectively reviewed all hemodialysis patients between the 1st of January 2010 and the 31st of December 2013, and all arteriovenous access created between the 1st of January 2009 and the 31st December 2012. Vascular access created before or after that time, vascular access created in other hemodialysis centers, hemodialysis performed by central venous line without attempt to create arteriovenous fistula or graft, and multiple missing days about arteriovenous access creation were exclusion criteria. Medical history and access-related data were collected in a dedicated file, and for patients who had more than one vascular access, data were collected for each individual access. Patency rates were calculated using Kaplan-Meier method. We defined functional primary patency as intervention-free access survival since the first success cannulation for dialysis, and functional secondary patency as the time to access abandonment since first successful cannulation for hemodialysis. Here are the results. We screened 297 patients. We included 50 patients and 58 arteriovenous access. 98% of them were arteriovenous fistula and 2% arteriovenous graft. In our cohort, 7% of the access needed surgical revision before first use, but no one for venous or arterial stenosis, thrombosis, or Still syndrome. 21% needed angiographic revision before first use, and 83% of cases due to venous stenosis. 78% of access were successfully used for hemodialysis. After the first cannulation of fistula, only 9% of patient needed needed surgical revision after first use, and 25% due to venous stenosis. However, 41% of access needed angiographic revision after first use, nearly 90% of cases due to venous stenosis. During the observational period, 7% of access were thrombosed, 75% of thrombosed access were successfully recovered after systemic thrombolysis. Functional primary patency was 60% at 1 year and 45% at 2 years. And functional secondary patency was 90% during 3 years. In conclusion, in this court, nearly 80% of arteriovenous access were successfully used for hemodialysis, and functional primary patency was in line with literature. The good functional secondary patency, despite of high incidence of venous stenosis in our court, is probably due to a policy of systematic follow-up and aggressive treatment of access complications. Vascular access team and multidisciplinary vascular access management in dialysis unit are efficient intervention to improve long-term outcomes. I would like to thank our colleague and nurse who participate to this study, and all of you for your attention. Thank you.